What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down a wide receiver football IQ quiz. So how our quiz style videos go is I'm going to show you guys a pre-snap look. I'm going to ask you how you guys would run a specific route versus this type of defensive coverage, and then I'm going to give you guys a chance to pause the video, think about your answers, maybe write them down however you guys want to play it, and then I'm going to break this thing down and explain to you the correct way. So I hope this video helps you guys out. Hope this will give you some value. But also, fellas, if you're a wide receiver and you would like a daily route running training schedule, everything wide receivers should be doing on the field to improve their route running, their press releases, and even their hands, check out that very first link below for our 8-week wide receiver on-field workout schedule, daily exercises with video examples, the works. So very first link below if you're interested in that. Let's get started. So now, this first scenario here, so like I said, give you guys a scenario, give you a chance to pause the video, then we'll break it down. So how would you guys run a fade route versus this specific type of coverage? So we see Jaire Alexander, eyes are to the inside. It's obviously zone. So you guys can go ahead and pause the video. How would you run a fade ball versus this type of zone coverage? So you guys go ahead and pause the video. Okay, so we're going to break this thing down now. So if I got a DB who's off like this and it's zone coverage, we obviously know that he's trying to prevent the deep ball, right? So depending on his leverage, the leverage might kind of dictate how I would run this route, but it's pretty much on a fade ball against zone. It's all relative. You would kind of do the same thing no matter what leverage the DB is, unless he's like press coverage outside shade. So I'm going to play this full speed. So what this wide receiver does here is he kind of makes he starts off the route pretty decent in terms of his stem, but he doesn't give something we call a vertical set move to the inside. So when we have kind of a reduced split right here, you see how this wide receiver, he starts out like on the top of the numbers. Usually a smart DB will probably play pretty far, not far, but he'll play outside leverage, because a wide receiver usually when he lines up on the top of the numbers is trying to either get to the outside and run that fade or use this space to the sideline to run an outside breaking route. So DB lines up outside leverage to make it more difficult on the wide receiver. He's kind of reading his split. So as a wide receiver, I need to understand that. I need to know what his responsibilities are and why he's trying to play it a certain way. So the way I would run this route is you would want to attack him and close the distance, number one. I want to make him very uncomfortable. I want to attack his front hip and try to step on his toes. And if I can do that, that can force him to backpedal, force a reaction out of him, you should say. Now, what this wide receiver does is he does that to start out. He attacks him, starts to close the distance, but there is no threat of an inside move, which is what can get the DB to crash and get us more space to the outside. We never on any of my routes want to just take off and go run to the outside, because if I just take off and go run to the outside, when this DB's outside leverage, he's just going to squeeze me to that sideline, because that is his responsibility. What we would want to do is we would want to close the distance with this DB, give him a hard fake to the inside with my inside foot. They call that a vertical set. So I close the distance, then right about here, we would throw a fake to the inside to sell post. All I need to get from this DB is just a hesitation, because then I could stay skinny and give my quarterback space to fade me to the outside. But he doesn't really do that. He has a good stem to start. He closes the distance. He threatens the front hip, but then he just tries to run around him. And honest to God, this could have been a lot worse. Great job fighting the hands, I do have to say, to be able to get a step on him, but this could have been a lot worse. He could have been all the way to the sideline. So if you're a younger wide receiver going up against a talented DB, I do not recommend running a fade like this where you just run at him, then just try to go around him. Let's try to give him some kind of fake to the inside, and they call that fake a vertical set move. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Again, right idea to start. You just have to understand that to get that DB to bite, to get him to stop his feet, we need to give him some kind of threat. If you're running an inside breaking route, let's say it's a deep post, the way he ran that would have been totally fine. You run at him, you go blind spot, and then you cut back to the post. But when it's an outside route, we cannot do that. Okay, so now, next example here, we're going to be looking primarily at Allen Robinson here out of the number 2 receiver slot. So I want to ask you guys, how would you run a slant route versus this specific coverage look? So a slant route versus this coverage look. So you guys can go ahead and pause the video and think about what you would want to do. So pause the video. Okay, let's break this thing down. So if we have to run a slant route, let's take a look. It's the same principles apply on every single situation, fellas. You come up to the line, we want to honestly, you got to die. You should obviously know the route because you have the play called. You should already know the route. And first thing we want to understand is the DB's leverage and how he is playing me. Where is this guy lined up? What leverage is he? Is he inside? Is he outside? Is he head up? And then I decide to go with whatever plan that I like. And there's not, every guy likes to run routes differently. There's no set way to run a route. There are a million different ways to skin a cat. But there are the general concepts of what your releases should be doing that remain pretty constant. So we see that this DB is what? Outside leverage. His eyes are kind of looking to the inside. Now, on the goal line, I don't necessarily like this coverage if I'm a defensive coordinator. Maybe there's some miscommunication here. Because as a wide receiver, what I'm going to do is I'm going to attack his leverage, try to get him to widen, and then run my slant. Create a bigger window for my QB to be able to fit that ball in there. Because when he's outside leverage, just like the last example, it was zone. This is probably more like off man. But what does he have to the inside? He has help to the inside. So he is trying to force us to the inside. So if you said, oh, I'm just take what he gives us, he's too far off, go run the slant, we would be wrong. Because if we just run the slant, that's what he wants us to do. He's trying to bait Stafford into throwing this. DBs are smart. DBs understand what to do. But I think at this level, it's tricky because you got wide receivers who know how to run routes. So let's play this full speed. Let's watch what Allen Robinson does. He angles his slant at the DB, creating a bigger window for the quarterback. And you see what starts to happen. Who drops to the middle of the field? Help. So he's got that middle linebacker dropping. If he would have just ran the slant, he would be running right into this middle linebacker. But because he attacked this DB's leverage, and he don't have to break the guy's ankle. We just have to threaten him with some kind of outside move. Just get him to hesitate because now I got a bigger window. And that's chemistry with your quarterback. That is how you guys honestly get separation with your routes. It's about your stem. It's about understanding how to attack a DB's leverage to create extra spacing on your routes or to maintain spacing. You never want to lose spacing. We only want to create more of it or create just separation flat out. So let's play this thing again, full speed. So if you guys said attack his leverage because he's outside leverage, you would be 100% correct. There are times where you just run the slant, but this is not one of those times. You could just run the 3 steps on the slant, but let's angle the stem at his outside shoulder, outside hip to get him to widen. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job by Robinson using that crossover and then winning on that slant ball. Okay, so now, last example here. So we have a 10-yard out versus this coverage from Keenan Allen. How would you guys run a 10-yard out versus this coverage? You guys can go ahead and pause the video and think about what you would want to do. So go ahead and pause the video. Okay, let's break this thing down. So now, if we have this type of coverage, what leverages the DB? And I know I talk a lot about leverage, and we get some questions sometimes from guys who are like, hey, coach, how do I know what leverage the DB has? And it's solely based on where he lines up. So if he lines up to the outside of you, like you're on the right side of the ball, quarterback's to the inside, you're on the right side of the ball, and he's lined up to your right, to the outside. That's outside leverage. He's lined up to your left, to the inside. That's inside leverage. And we know, based on his leverage, that is where he's trying to protect. So he has to run Keenan Allen a 10-yard out right into this outside leverage. He is trying to bait us into just forcing it outside. So he can squeeze me to the sideline. He could get right on my hip. Maybe the quarterback throws it a little bit late, or maybe he throws it on time. We're just at a good coverage position, and he could jump that thing and pick it. He's trying to make it very hard on us. So what you would want to do, and if you guys said this, you would be correct, is you would want to attack the inside shoulder of the DB. Let's try to get his hips to flip open to the fade so I can slip underneath. So let's watch what Keenan Allen does. He almost does this off of like a post stem. It's almost like a post out, I guess you could say. It's where it's like, or like a blaze out where you're taking 3 steps at the break point right here. But it's almost like an inside stem out route, post out, however you want to think of it. But the concept remains the same. As I know a lot of you probably don't have that post out in your playbook. You probably just had that 10-yard out. Main thing is we want to attack his inside hip and his inside shoulder. And when I attack his inside hip and his inside shoulder, I have to self-fade. You see how he's in a good pad level. He's running hard. He's maintaining his stride. All of those things make that DB think that it's an inside route, it's a bender, it's a post, maybe it's a deep skinny post, and that is what gets him to flip. Everybody always biggest nightmare is like, well, coach, what if I try to do that, and I attack his hip, I attack his shoulder, and he doesn't move? What if he just sits right there? Number one, it's probably on us. As a wide receiver, we're offensive-minded people. You have to always think on the offensive. What did I do wrong? How can I correct this to make the DB move? And it comes down to selling fade, fellas, just like anything else. You're selling your first initial move. You have to make sure we have good pad level, good stride, good speed. All of those things will get that DB to commit because there's a point where he has to do it. And if we're a salesman enough, that can get that guy to commit and that could set up more space. Now, why wouldn't I just attack his leverage here? Why wouldn't I just try to square him up, try to step on his toes, attack his midline? Because if we attack his leverage, remember, He's trying to protect the outside. A good DB is just going to keep his leverage, and then you're going to break right in front of him, and he'll be able to drive on it. So reason why we attack the inside shoulder and hip is to maintain spacing so the quarterback has enough room to throw me open, but also it's a great way to get open and get a disciplined DB to bite on a certain fake. Let's play this thing again, full speed one more time. Great job by Allen going at that inside shoulder, getting that DB to commit, again, off of probably a post stem or a bender stem, but it would be the same concept no matter what. All right, fellas, really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you guys have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. Always appreciate the feedback. Always great to hear from you guys. And again, fellas, if you would like an 8-week wide receiver on-field workout schedule, check out that very first link in the description below. I'll see you guys next time.